Voice of Korea.
Voice of Korea.
This is Voice of Korea.
This is Voice of Korea.
Now we begin the English language transmission from Pyongyang, the capital of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
Will office in a mixed chorus. Fourth General Kim Il-sung. Tonight, enjoy your meal. Chorus, served janitor Kim Jung-il.
Respected Kim Jong-il, First Secretary of the Workers' Party of Korea, First Chairman of the National Defense Commission of the DPRK, and Supreme Commander of the Korean People's Army, visited the Fatherland Liberation War Martyrs Cemetery and paid respects to the martyrs of the People's Army at 10 hours on July the 27th, on the occasion of the 61st anniversary of the victory in the Great Fatherland Liberation War. Present there were Hwang Byung-seo and other commanding personnel of the Korean People's Army, members of the Executive Committee of the Party Committee of the Army, and commanding personnel of the services and corps level units. Colors of the three services of the Army and the Worker Peasant Red Guards were set up, and guards of honor standing on both sides of the monument to the martyrs of the People's Army. Lining up there was a guard of honor of the three services of the Army and the Worker Peasant Red Guards. Supreme Commander Kim Jong-un arrived at the Martyrs Cemetery. The commander of the Guard of Honor ordered the guard to present arms in memory of the Fatherland Liberation War martyrs. After the solemn playing of the national anthem patriotic song, the floral basket was laid in the name of respected Supreme Commander Kim Jong-un to the strains of floral basket laying music. Floral baskets and bouquets were laid in the name of the General Staff and the General Political Bureau of the Korean People's Army, the Ministry of the People's Armed Forces, the three services and corps level units. Supreme Commander Kim Jong-un, together with participants, observed a moment's silence in memory of the martyrs of the People's Army. The Guard of Honor marched past in file the strains of the song, Respect for the Victors of Great Years. Kim Jong-un, together with participants, looked round the cemetery. He said the victory in the past Fatherland Liberation War is associated with the heroic feats performed by the known and unknown martyrs who had bravely turned out in defense of the country in hearty response to the order of the great leader Kim Il-sung. He stressed the need to respect the participants in the war as revolutionary forerunners and carry forward their revolutionary spirit and merit in the struggle generation after generation. Respected Supreme Commander Kim Jong-un said the spirit of national defense displayed during the Great Fatherland Liberation War is a valuable spiritual legacy of the Korean Revolution, and underscored the need to imbue youth and children of the new generations and people with the mass heroism and patriotism displayed by the army and people in the war.
Respected Kim Jong-un, First Secretary of the Workers' Party of Korea, First Chairman of the National Defense Commission of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and Supreme Commander of the Korean People's Army, together with the service personnel of the People's Army, appreciated the performance given by the State Merited Chorus at the People's Theater on the occasion of the Victory Day. Enjoying the performance together with him were Hwang Byung-so and the commanding personnel of the Korean People's Army, members of the Executive Committee of the Party Committee of the Korean People's Army, and commanding personnel of the services and Army Corps level units. Coming out the auditorium of the theater, Kim Jong-un warmly waved back to the audience, raising cheers of hurrah, and congratulated them on their significant celebration of the Victory Day. Put on the stage were various items, including male choruses, July 27th March, and Long Live Generalissimo Kim Il-sung, orchestral music and songs, respect to the victors of the great years, male chorus, Son of Praise of God units, male duet and male chorus, General Kim Jong-il is a great defender, and male chorus, Revolutionary Armed Forces loyal only to the leadership of Marshal Kim Jong-un. After the performance, respected Supreme Commander Kim Jong-un waved his hand to the performers and audience, raising enthusiastic cheers, and congratulated the performers on their successful performance. He expressed the belief that the creators and artists of the State Merited Chorus would in the future too dynamically conduct revolutionary and militant art activities, and thus more forcefully encourage the Korean army and the people in their struggle to bring earlier the final victory in the confrontation with the United States and the building of a thriving nation with the unbreakable great army-people unity.
The General Association of Koreans in China sent a letter to respected Marshal Kim Jong-un on Sunday on the occasion of the 61st anniversary of the victory of the Korean people in the Fatherland Liberation War. The letter said, "The fatherly leader Kim Il-sung led the Fatherland Liberation War to a great victory and performed undying feats for the country and people for the times in history. He is alive forever in the hearts of all people as a symbol of victory in the cause of independence against imperialism, and his exploits for victory in the anti-US war have become a treasured sword of victory that enabled the Korean army and people to win repeated brilliant victories in the confrontation with the United States decade after decade, as well as a precious revolutionary treasure." Carrying forward the exploits performed by Kim Il-sung for the victory in the anti-US war, the great Generalissimo Kim Jong-il comprehensively established his original mode of Sungun politics in keeping with the demand of the development of revolution, firmly consolidated the anti-imperialist military front of the Korean Revolution, and provided a strong self-defensive war-deterrent force, and thus led the anti-US, anti-imperialist struggle of the Korean people to a new victory. Thanks to the invincible Sungun-based leadership of respected Marshal Kim Jong-un, the undying achievements of the great Generalissimos Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il are shining as an eternal treasure sword of the anti-imperialist, anti-US struggle, the letter said, and sincerely wished Kim Jong-un good health.
Service personnel of the ground, naval, air and anti-aircraft and strategic forces of the Korean People's Army held a meeting at the square of the Kunsusan Palace of the Sun on Sunday to take an oath to glorify forever the immortal exploits of the great Generalissimos Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il for victory in the anti-imperialist war and accomplish the great cause of national reunification under the leadership of respected Supreme Commander Kim Jong-un on the occasion of the 61st anniversary of the victory in the Fatherland Liberation War. Present there were Vice Marshal of the Korean People's Army Hwang Byung-so, Director of the General Political Bureau of the Korean People's Army, and the commanding personnel of the Army, service persons of the ground, naval, air, and anti-aircraft and strategic forces, and cadets of military academies of different levels. seats for honored guests and the park of the fair were taken by officials of the party, armed forces and government bodies, working people's organizations, ministries and national agencies, and working people of broad sections in Pyongyang. The 21-gun salute was fired. All the participants paid a high tribute to the portraits of the great generalissimus. Kim Jong-il in his speech said, respected the Supreme Commander Kim Jong-un with a full faith and will to honor the undying achievements of the ever-victorious iron-willed brilliant commanders, great generalissimus Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, with a victory in the great cause of national reunification, has remarkably strengthened and developed the Korean People's Army into one match for 100 powerful revolutionary army and one great victory to the admiration of the world in the sharp confrontation with the enemy. He stressed that the Korean army and the people will always emerge victorious and glorify the history and tradition of the victory for all ages, thanks to respected Marshal Kim Jong-un. All the speeches were made and the resolution read out at the meeting. The parade of the Guard divisions and regiments and the ground, naval, air and anti-aircraft and strategic forces of the Korean People's Army was held at the square to commemorate the 61st anniversary of the victory in the Great Fatherland Liberation War. The parade was followed by a fireworks display.
Senior officials of the party and state visited the Kungsusan Palace of the Sun and paid high tribute to great leaders Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, who are laid in state there on Sunday on the occasion of the 61st anniversary of the victory in the Great Fatherland Liberation War. The visitors included Kim Yong-nam, Park Beng-ju, and other senior officials of the party and state, and officials of the party, armed forces and government organs, working people's organizations, ministries and national agencies. Set up on both sides of the full-length statues of the great Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, the flags of the Workers' Party of Korea and the DPRK and colors, and lining up there was the guard of honor of the ground, naval, air and anti-aircraft forces of the Korean People's Army and the Worker Peasant Red Guards. Seen before the statues was a floral basket laid in the name of respected Kim Jong-un, First Secretary of the Workers' Party of Korea, First Chairman of the National Defense Commission of the DPRK, and Supreme Commander of the Korean People's Army. Also seen there was a floral basket laid in the name of the Korean People's Army. The floral basket was laid before the statues in the joint name of the Central Committee and the Central Military Commission of the Workers' Party of Korea and the National Defense Commission, the Presidium of the Supreme People's Assembly, and the Cabinet of the DPRK. The participants paid noble homage to the statues. They made a bow to the great generalissimos Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, laid in state in the halls of immortality. They looked round the rooms, keeping the decorations awarded to the great generalissimos, representing warm praise and great admiration of the Korean people and the world of progressive humanity, and the rooms keeping the cars, electric car, boat and wagons used by the generalissimos during their field guidance tour and foreign tour till the last period of their lives.
Foreigners, including diplomatic representatives of various countries, representatives of international organizations, and military attachés in Korea, and overseas Korean compatriots staying in the homeland, visited the Kungsusan Palace of the Sun and paid tribute to the great leaders Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il on the 27th, on the occasion of the 61st anniversary of the victory of the Korean people in the Great Fatherland Liberation War. That day, the representatives and members of the Pyongyang mission of the South Korean Anti-Imperialist National Democratic Front also visited the Kungsusan Palace of the Sun and paid respect to the great Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il.
Service personnel of the People's Army, working people of different sections, and school youth and children laid floral baskets before the bronze statues of the great Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il in different places on the occasion of the 61st anniversary of the victory of the Fatherland Liberation War. The bronze statues of the great leaders Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il on Mansu Hill were visited by service personnel of the People's Army, working people of different sections, and school youth and children. Seen before the bronze statues was a floral basket sent by respect to the Kim Jong-un. Laid there were floral baskets, bouquets, and flowers in the name of the party, armed forces and government organs, public organizations, ministries, national institutions, units of the Korean People's Army and the Korean People's Internal Security Forces, and different levels of institutions, industrial establishments, farms, schools, and so on in Pyongyang. The floral basket was also placed in the name of the Pyongyang mission of the South Korean Anti-Imperialist National Democratic Front. The attendants paid respect to the bronze statues of the great generalissimus. Tribute was also paid to bronze statues and smiling portraits of the great generalissimus at Kim Il-sung Military University, the Ministry of the People's Armed Forces, the Ministry of People's Security, the Mangyongdae Revolutionary School, the Mansde Art Studio, and different other places in the capital city and local areas.
Campus for the 29th Songdo-won International Children's Camping laid bouquets before the bronze statues of the great leaders Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il on Mansu Hill and paid tribute to them on the 27th.
Wreaths were laid at the Revolutionary Martyrs Cemetery on Mount Daesung and the Patriotic Martyrs Cemetery, and floral baskets at the Fatherland Liberation War Martyrs Cemetery on the 27th, on the occasion of the 61st anniversary of the victory in the Great Fatherland Liberation War. Seen on the wreath-laying stands of the martyrs' cemeteries were wreaths and floral baskets in the name of the Supreme Leader of the Party and People, Kim Jong-un, First Secretary of the Workers' Party of Korea, First Chairman of the National Defense Commission of the DPRK, and Supreme Commander of the Korean People's Army. Present at the wreath and floral basket-laying ceremonies were Kim Yong-nam, Park Bong-ju, and other senior officials of the party, state and army, vice premiers, chairperson of a friendly party, officials of the party, armed forces and government organs, the cabinet, working people's organizations, ministries and national institutions, service personnel of the Korean People's Army and the Korean People's Internal Security Forces, and working people in Pyongyang. On the same day, wreaths were laid at the bronze statues of martyrs, martyrs' cemeteries, monuments to fallen soldiers of the People's Army, and tombs of martyrs across the country.
The song and dance performance of the Korean People's Army Song and Dance Ensemble, We Have Only the Victory Day, July 27th, was given at the April 25th House of Culture in Pyongyang on Sunday to celebrate the 61st anniversary of the victory in the Great Fatherland Liberation War. The performance was enjoyed by Kim Yong-nam, Park Bong-ju, and other senior officials of the party and state, officials of the party and armed forces organs, ministries and national agencies, officials of the institutions and industrial establishments in Pyongyang City, service personnel of the Korean People's Army and the Korean People's Internal Security Forces, heroes, war veterans, and labor innovators. Invited to see the performance were overseas Koreans staying in the socialist homeland, the representatives of the Pyongyang mission of the South Korean Anti-Imperialist National Democratic Front, diplomatic representatives of different countries, representatives of international organizations and foreign military attaches and their spouses in Korea, and foreign guests. The performance started with the prelude, July 27th March, and Tell Fireworks of War Victory. Put on the stage were various items, including choruses, song dedicated to Marshal Kim Il-sung and General of Korea.
Grand chorus of school youth and children in Pyongyang forward to the final victory was performed at the Kim Il-sung Square on the 27th on the occasion of the 61st anniversary of the victory in the Great Fatherland Liberation War. Youth and students danced the tune of songs including Tell Fireworks of War Victory, July 27th March, and Great Victory Day. The performance was appreciated by officials concerned, war veterans, and school youth and children in Pyongyang. That day, dancing parties of youth and students were held in Pyongyang and provincial cities and counties on the same occasion.
The entire armymen and people across the DPRK significantly celebrated the 61st anniversary of the victory in the Great Fatherland Liberation War. The revolutionary drama, Following the Banner of Victory, was performed by the National Theatrical Troupe at the National Theatre in the capital city Pyongyang, and performances for Victory Day given at theatres in the capital and localities. Women's unionists chorused wartime songs in different places of Pyongyang and localities, including the squares of the monument to party founding and the Pyongyang Indoor Stadium, increasing the atmosphere of the Victory Days. Meetings with war veterans and sports and amusement games were held at the industrial establishments and the institutions, including the construction sites of the stock-breeding base in the Sepo area and the power stations on the river Chungcheon, giving joy and optimism to the working people and school youth and children on the holiday.
Fireworks were shot off in Pyongyang, the capital of revolution, on the 27th to celebrate the 61st anniversary of the victory in the Great Fatherland Liberation War. The fireworks celebrating the Victory Day, July the 27th, clearly demonstrates the firm faith and will of the Korean army and people to eternalize the immortal exploits of the great generalismos Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-un for the war victory and the Sungun Revolution, and win the final victory of the powerful Pakistan nation under the leadership of respected Marshal Kim Jong-un.
The Central Standing Committee of the General Association of Korean Residents in Japan organized a lecture at the Korean Hall in Tokyo on the 26th to celebrate the 61st anniversary of the victory in the Great Fatherland Liberation War. Present to hear the lecture were Vice Chairman and Department Directors of the Central Standing Committee, leading officials of the central organizations and business firms, officials of the Gansu region, and teachers of Korea University under the General Association. Lee Young-soo, chairman of the Korean Social Scientists Association in Japan, gave a lecture under the title on the Sungun-based leadership of respected Marshal Kim Jong-un, who is leading the total confrontation with the United States to the final victory. That day, the participants appreciated the DPRK film.
The Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Korea sent a message of greetings to the National Executive Committee of the People's Democratic Party of Nigeria on Sunday, on the occasion of the 16th anniversary of the founding of the party. The message expressed the belief that the friendly and cooperative relations between the two parties would be further expanded and developed, and wished the People's Democratic Party of Nigeria a greater success in its future activities to strengthen the party and achieve prosperity of the country.
Service personnel of the Korean People's Army, working people from all walks of life, school youth and children, foreigners and overseas Koreans continue to visit the historic site associated with the Fatherland Liberation War on the occasion of the Victory Day. This year alone, visitors came from Kim Il-sung University, the Mangyongdae Revolutionary School, the Pyongyang Thermal Power Complex, and many other units across the country.
Foreign campers for the 29th Hangdo-won International Children's Camping visited Mangyongdae, the birthplace of President Kim Il-sung. They also visited the Arch of Triumph, the Pyongyang Folklore Park, the Ningna Dolphinarium, and other places. And that's the end of the news, read by Kim Hyun-ok and Cha Jung-nam. This is Voice of Korea.
I now present the immortal masterpiece, Nostalgia, written by the Korean leader Kim Il-sung during the anti-Japanese revolutionary struggle.
band music, song dedicated to Marshal Kim Il-sung.
victorious people. July the 27th is the significant day when the Korean people won victory in the three-year Fatherland Liberation War against the invasion of the US imperialists in the early 1950s. The war was a stern confrontation, unprecedented in the world history of wars, in view of balance of forces and arms and equipment. It was a confrontation between the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, which was less than 2 years after its foundation, and the world's would-be strongest US imperialists. The world watched the destiny of Korea. But the result of the war was beyond imagination, which involved the huge US armed forces, including troops of the US imperialists and their 15 satellite countries and the South Korean Pocket Army. The Korean people threw the US imperialists into a bottomless abyss with original military tactics under the leadership of the great Kim Il-sung. During the 3-year war, the US imperialists lost almost 2.3 times as many troops and combat equipment as in the 4-year Pacific War during the Second World War. The Fatherland Liberation War was concluded on July the 27th, 1942 or 1953, with a brilliant victory of the Korean people. Since then, the US imperialists went downhill, registering only repeated defeats in Korea. The US armed spy ship Pueblo, which had intruded into the territorial waters of Korea, was captured by the Navy of the Korean People's Army in the late 1960s. The US imperialists, crying that the captured ship was in the open sea, blared that they would trigger up a war if the DPRK does not apologize and send it back. They amassed huge US armed forces on the Korean peninsula and threatened the DPRK with arms. The Korean people, under the leadership of the great Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, took a resolute stand that they would answer the retaliation of the US imperialists with retaliation, and their total war with total war. The US imperialists had to bring themselves to their knees and make an apology to the Korean people again. Afterwards, too, the US imperialists intruded into the territorial air of the DPRK several times, but faced serious defeat. Far from drawing a lesson from their repeated defeats, they forced the DPRK to accept nuclear inspection in the 1990s under the pretext of its fictitious nuclear issue. The government of the DPRK considered it to be aggression of a sovereign state and declared a semi-war state across the country, terrifying the US imperialists again. The Korean people, under the wise leadership of the great generalissimo Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, always won victory in the confrontation with the United States, professing itself to be sole superpower in the world. The proud history of victory of the Korean people will continue forever, thanks to respected Kim Jong-un, who is defending the destiny of the country and people with a sovereign or army-first policy, carrying forward the idea and intention of the great generalissimo. You've been listening to Macauntlery title, Ever Victorious People. This is Voice of Korea.
Please appreciate the new song, Female Chorus, Song of Praise of God Unit. Version music by Seol Tae-sung, arrangement by Kim Un-ryong, sung by the vocal group of the Morambong Band, and accompaniment by the band. to a new song. Dear listeners, with this we conclude the English language service of Voice of Korea from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Voice of Korea presents its English language service for Southeast Asia between 5 and 6 hours UTC on 13,650 kHz and 15,105 kHz, and between 10 and 11 hours UTC on 11,735 kHz. and 13,650 kilohertz. For Middle East and Northern Africa between 16 and 17 hours UTC on 9,890 kilohertz and 11,635 kilohertz, and between 19 and 20 hours UTC on 9,875 kilohertz and 11,635 kilohertz. For Southern Africa between 19 and 20 hours UTC on 7,210 kilohertz and 11,910 kilohertz. And for Central and South Americas between 4 and 5 hours UTC on 11,735 kilohertz, 13,760 kilohertz, and 15,180 kilohertz. And between 10 and 11 hours UTC on 11,710 kilohertz and 15,180 kilohertz. Goodbye, this is Pyongyang.